September 19th, 1952. Charlie Chaplin is barred from entering the United States. To quote Chaplin, welcome to The Revisionists. I'm Brian Flynn.
I'm Zach Powers.
I'm Mike Hammock.
Joining us today, thank you for being here.
You are very welcome.
Mike, you're a local stand-up, right?
Yeah.
You do other things also?
I do business things.
Business things.
I'm an amateur historian, as I'm clearly here. I do stand-up comedies.
Stand-up comedies.
I'm very active on social media websites such as Facebook, Twitters, Tinders.
Your Angel Fires.
Angel
Live
Fires.
journals.
Your Lives Journal.
WordPress. MySpace.
Zanga.
Isn't yours tubes?
Yours
Yeah,
Tube.
yours too.
Yours
I think you're
Tubes.
thinking of RedTube. actually.
RedTube.
Yeah.
All over RedTube.
Yes.
I mean, I'm coming and going there.
Gross. Well,
Series of tubes
phrasing.
owned by a man named Yor.
Nice to meet you.
It's short for Yorick Tube. It's all Hamlet
Let's
reenactments.
listen. This isn't about me. Let's
This is-
focus on you guys.
That's right.
What do you do?
This podcast.
We're trapped here. We have to fulfill our devil's bargain of doing this podcast.
You have to do it until someone else takes over the podcast, and then they're trapped in the podcast.
Yeah, it's like It Follows.
Yeah, it's exactly like you have to pass it on to someone.
So if you would like to have sex at the end of the podcast,
You can send us a message at revisionistpodcast.com.
I was specifically asking Mike, but anyone will do.
Well, we'll put it out there. Mike, you're an excellent candidate.
We'll see how good your Hannibal background is.
Just to briefly recap what we do on the show, we take a topic from history and we tell two different stories, one true and one alternate made-up bullshit history. And then we decide which one we would rather have as our actual accepted history. And this week we're discussing Hannibal, the Carthaginian. So, Mike, you're going to be telling the true story.
I'm telling the only story.
The only story. Zach, you're going to be telling the alternate.
It is a different story.
Oh, well.
No, there is no. This guy's life was so fucking insane. Like there, I mean, I'm excited to hear what you have to say. I'm excited to hear the alternate history. But this guy was
I'm glad you validated Zach.
fucking bananas.
Don't be.
Bananas.
I got nothing. He ran a bakery?
Well, I mean, Hannibal Buress. That's, I'm assuming, who we're discussing, right? The guy who outed Cosby
Ancient figure
in 2015.
Hannibal Buress.
Ancient. The man who brought Rome to his knees.
When it revealed it had several old rape charges against it.
Well, that sounds like Rome.
Uh-huh.
Well, Mike, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, all right. Hannibal. Carthaginenic, which I believe is where we get the cigarette term from. Someone from Carthage.
The cigarette term.
They have poor lungs. The air quality in Carthage is very bad. Carthaginenic.
The power of...
His father was a guy named Hamilcar Barca. Barca, I believe, is the actual term, but I like Baraka from the fighting game.
I thought you were going for Amiri Baraka.
No. Anyway, his dad fought in something called the Punic War. He, I believe, eventually was sued for punitive damages, hence the term Punic. But then,
How many definitions are you going to give in the course of the...
Well, you sue when you get the carcinogens in your lungs from cigarettes. You sue for punic damages.
I am
That is-
appreciative.
Very Marx Brothers.
I'm kind of appreciative you didn't go with the pubic pun.
No,
That seems like the...
What do you
that's the low
think
road.
of me?
Again, that seems very Roman,
What
though.
do you think of me, person who we didn't really sure if we would met earlier 5 minutes ago? God.
Oh, words.
So at some point as a kid, one of his formative experiences is his dad holds him over a fire and says, "I need you to fuck up Rome for me." And he's like, "I will totally do that for you. Please don't put me in the fire." And that was when he decided he was going to start fucking up Rome. And that really happened. So he starts off the war, starts coming from Spain, and decides he's going to invade Rome, and he's going to be the guy to do it. Carthaginians are very famous for their war elephants. They use North African elephants, which are much smaller. They're not like what you would see in 300. They're, it's like
Oh, good, because I looked at
300. My
300
number one
for
source of
documents, for journalistic authenticity.
What in essence
It's like a Nat
used,
Geo.
it could very easily have been like, in the same way an adult is formed by two children in a trench coat.
An adult is formed.
It's
not a Voltron.
in the same
You
in
just
the
get
same
older.
way. In the same way, this elephant was formed. It could very well be like two mastiffs and a turtle with a tarp over it. They're small elephants.
What sort of conversion chart are you using?
I'm taking the height of the North African elephant, which I would estimate, based on the pictures, at about 7.5 feet. Put 2 mastiffs and then a turtle for that extra half foot. Throw a tarp over it. Gray. It's about the size of an African elephant.
Okay.
And so he decided he was going to invade. And he caught the Romans off guard. They were not surprised. They were expecting the Mediterranean. They were expecting the sea. They were not expecting a guy to bring elephants down from the mountains, because where do elephants not live?
Gaul.
The sea.
The mountains.
Sea.
No, we'll get to your Gaul very soon. Third pun. We're going to go for like 5 on this one.
Oh, that's a very low bar.
Yeah, I know.
I think we've proven.
I had like 3 or 4 solo puns just like
Yeah.
last week.
Within the span of 30 seconds. It was, I think it qualified as a war crime, actually.
So he crosses the mountains, and this is the famous story with Hannibal. He crosses the Alps with 38,000 foot soldiers, 7,000 cavalry, and 38 war elephants. The very famous story is he gets trapped in the mountains. There's a rock slide. They can't get through these big boulders, so they pour vinegar all over them and then light them on fire. That oxidizes the rock or some shit like that. It cracks it, and then uses
Vinegar again. There was that story about Cleopatra dropping a pearl in vinegar.
Yeah.
What is with vinegar and all this magic it could do that I did not know about?
It's time to reveal our sponsor for this series of episodes.
Is vinegar.
Salads. More than salads.
Melting pearls.
Dear Vinegar, you need to work on your motto.
Quickly eroding rock.
Salads more than salads is not a good slogan.
Isn't that really terrible? We've got, like, vinegar had this really great epic history, and now it's a salad dressing.
John Draper, I think you're having a breakdown.
It's wine you forgot to drink in a timely manner. Not that I have that problem.
But, no, I mean, apparently that does something to the rock. It cracked the rock, and they used the elephants to clear it away, and they came down. Fun fact, not really. I mean, he's known as, like, a great war general and stuff like that. He did lose half of his men in the Alps. That was like, wasn't that great. He did lose 18,000 people up there, crossing it in the summer. But he gets down there, and he just beats the living fuck out of the Romans. I mean, he just goes to town on these guys. Goes up and down, spends 15 years in Italy just beating the shit out of people. Never quite gets the strength to take down Rome. He can't invade the city itself, but he's too strong for any of the guys themselves, any of the generals to come out and beat him. So he literally just spends 15 years marching up and down across Italy, beating the fuck out of people. Biggest success was a battle called
I'm just picturing like a Before Sunset style series of films with Hannibal and just like whatever Roman generals traveling up and down Italy as they get older, directed by Richard Linklater.
just touring about like the trip.
And it's kind of sad, but kind of happy.
Not much really happens.
And they do Michael Caine impressions, which is weird because Michael Caine hadn't been invented yet.
I'm going to destroy Rome. I'm going to destroy Rome.
But blew the bloody doors off.
Well, legend says there was always a Michael Caine.
Always a Michael Caine.
There was always a Michael Caine.
So it's like The Giver, there's always one, and it's just passed down.
Yeah, they teach the one that follows.
The Roman army met, and he beat them terribly at the field of Cain. Not a joke. I believe that's how it's pronounced. Cannae. Cain. Canai.
I think I've heard
Connie.
can I, but for purposes of this joke,
It's gonna be Caine,
It's
yeah.
actually pronounced Michael Caine.
It was Michael Caine.
It's pronounced Jaws the Revenge, starring Michael Caine.
And Hannibal used 60,000 guys that he had gathered up. He had gotten, not the Gauls, but he had gotten a lot of the not the Celts either, but the tribesmen in Italy, the Macedonians, to rise up against the Romans. So he got 60,000 troops, beat 80,000 Roman soldiers using war elephants and shit like that. Which, by the way, every place I read remarked war elephants. Number one thing to beat a war elephant? Trumpet. It would blow a trumpet. It would scare the elephant back.
Elephants. Surprisingly stupid weakness.
Again, not a great slogan. And also, why are we just trying to sell these weird categories of things, one of which is not even a product, but an animal?
I just feel like back then there was some guy going around like selling trumpets, and he's like, all right, the military's got a lot of trumpets. Well, they need more trumpets. What do we sell? Elephants. You got to worry about elephants? These will keep all the elephants away.
I prefer to think of it that it started
We need
as
to
like
flood
a
the market with elephants so these trumpets can sell.
I prefer to think the trumpets started as a top secret military weapons initiative.
I like to think of it
There's
as
a
like,
Roman man who came home every night and his wife was like, "What'd you work on today?" Top secret. Can't tell you.
And then he goes, I need to work from home, and he just slams the door in here.
Well, it's just like at the Trinity site where everyone's in the bunker just watching the field, and suddenly you just hear like kind of blue coming in from on the breeze.
I like your idea of like the military-industrial complex flooding the market with elephants to sell trumpets. Yeah, defeats 80,000 soldiers and gets to the point really where he's literally at the verge of taking Rome. He loses, massive. Everyone loses a ton of guys. They think on that day something around the level of like 50 to 60,000 Roman troops were killed. I mean, just a shit ton of guys died.
At the Battle of Jaws 4,
the Battle of
starring Michael Caine.
The Battle of Michael Caine.
I've heard, this may not be technically true, but an alternate theory I've heard is that he used some pretty inventive military techniques. Even though he had smaller numbers, he sort of made it so his men enveloped the other force.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Actually crushed them, managed to completely surround them just by having smaller numbers and just slaughter their way through
It was a double envelopment, is what it was. What he did is
wad of people. It's called an army.
Is he took
his squeezed together like they couldn't even move.
Took his war elephants and used them against the thing they're most effective against, which was breaking cavalry. And as most of the time back then, they would take your cavalry and you'd throw it against each other. And then once whatever one broke, you would just use it to massacre the men. He took all his cavalry, put it on one of the flanks, and then put his infantry behind his war elephants. The war elephants went in, got a little fucked up by the Roman cavalry, but it collapsed his front line, but he has such strong flanks that his cavalry was able to come in and destroy the Romans' much weaker flanks and completely routed them. So, yeah, it's in essence elephants. If we're doing rock, paper, scissors, it's infantry, elephant, trumpet. Yeah. That's really... Okay. Trumpet beats elephant, elephant beats infantry, infantry beats trumpet.
Oh, yeah, infantry.
The way I've heard it described is that they were so pushed together that they couldn't move their arms, and they were just waiting for people to slash their way to them, which sounds terrifying.
Yes. So basically, Hannibal stuffed them in a locker, then beat the shit out of them.
More or less, yeah.
So he beats the Romans. There's no Roman army right now that can beat him, but he's not strong enough to take the city itself. So he literally just spends 15 years marching around Italy, living off the land, and he forces the Romans to engage.
Becomes a hobo for a while.
Discovering Hannibal.
He really is. He's
getting to know Hannibal.
Famous vagrant Hannibal.
College sophomore who just fucked his way across Italy. Couldn't afford to go home, but couldn't afford to stay in a hostel
it's weird
either.
That he's a college sophomore for 15 years. This is like a weird Van Wilder situation.
I want to add Hannibal to my favorite sub-article on Wikipedia. Notable hobos.
Which is... my favorite just for the name.
There's also a sub-article that goes, notable people who hoboed.
So he keeps begging. His hometown, Carthage, is like, please send me some troops. We can absolutely do this. We can beat the Romans. They don't send it. There's a guy who kind of betrays him in a very 300-esque style. And he just kind of gets stuck there. And eventually, he's defeated by a guy named Scipio Africanus, which is the reason that sounds familiar is if you've seen... Gladiator.
Or heard of the country Africa. South Africa.
The scene where Russell Crowe really takes command of the movie and defends everything. The fight they're fighting is based on Scipio Africanus versus Hannibal. And he's defeated. But he doesn't die. He gets to retire. Because they were just cool back then. It's like if we let Osama bin Laden run an Applebee's or something afterwards.
That's not really retirement. I assume that's a lot of work.
He went back and he became a businessman and a politician. But they did get into one more fight. He helped somebody else, another king, in a fight at some point. He became his general for a while. He was in his late 40s. And this is what I was telling you earlier. The reason Hannibal is directly responsible for the film Snakes on a Plane.
I always suspected that. Because they had that story by credit at the end of the movie.
Hannibal.
Yeah, he got EP on that, didn't he?
Yeah, you got his executive producer. Hobo producer. Got HD.
That's the HP.
No. There was a boat battle, big battle, and they were coming over some cliffs, and he took buckets of snakes and dropped them, or pots full of poisonous snakes, and dropped them onto these boats. These guys,
pots full of snakes, because that may have just been spaghetti, and it just got exaggerated.
Snakes on a boat.
He also dropped eyeballs on them. He asked them to close their eyes and feel the eyeballs he was dropping.
And the Romans surrendered out of fear.
But so he poison a bunch of sailors with snakes. He dropped them on and then he eventually...
He could have just waited for syphilis to do it.
He eventually then became a politician, figured out the debt crisis for Carthage, got the whole thing settled down, paid off the debt back to Rome, and then they became so successful that Rome kind of freaked out that they were being so successful. They came back in the Third Punic War, beat the fuck out of Carthage, salted the ground so nothing would ever grow there again. And
that's how we get Libya.
And that's how we get Libya. Hannibal then poisoned himself with poison he kept in his own ring because he said, apparently the Romans can't wait for an old man to die from old age, so I'll just do it for you. And that's how he went out, like a fucking G.
Well, fuck.
Right? How do you beat that? What can you make up to beat that? It's literally snakes on a plane, elephants on a mountain, poison in a ring.
I don't know. I'm not sure how closely related Snakes on a Plane is to that.
Well, no, the real story behind Snakes on a Plane is a bunch of writers were sitting around going, what's the worst title for a movie we could think of? And someone said Snakes on a Plane, and someone said, I'm going to write that movie.
Yeah, that's basically...
Based on the life of Hannibal of Carthage.
That was originally the subtitle. It was like based on a novel Pushed by Sapphire.
Do you know what the character name for Samuel L. Jackson is in Snakes on a Plane?
I do not.
It's Hannibal.
Oh, is it?
I made that up. I have no idea. It sounds right, though, doesn't it?
Eyeball.
It's Hannibal.
Hans Eyeball. That sounds like someone in a cartoon.
Hans Ibel. FBI.
That's not... I do not surrender. That's not intimidating.
Hans Ibel.
Zach, I believe it's your turn to take over the proceedings.
Partly true. What he says, this tale of wonder and glory. It's true that Hannibal's father was a noted military commander in the First Punic War. That is true. And he wanted Hannibal to follow in his footsteps in his crusade against Rome. But all Hannibal wanted to do was to dance.
Fucking knew that was going to be exactly. So he said all he wanted to do is like, it's not accounting, it's definitely dance.
Yeah, who wants to do accounting?
Yeah, he couldn't follow in his father's footsteps in his bloodlust against Rome because his heart was taken with the beautiful, beautiful ways of the dance. And when he got to high school, Carthage, he joined the high school dance squad.
The dance squad.
Does history know the name of the dance squad?
It was the Carthage Elephants. That may come into play later.
And also, Dance Squad sounds like a great 80s
Please tell
movie.
me he loses a bunch of them in the mountains somewhere.
No. He is insanely skilled. He finds that he's a pretty good dancer, but he's even better at choreography. And he puts together the best goddamn dance routine that Carthage has ever seen. He calls it Rhapsody, a poem in the key of bounce, and it is beautiful. Many years later, Cleopatra, in an interview with Vibe magazine, would say that this dance routine inspired almost all of her work directly.
Yep.
So, pretty impressive stuff. And when they finally have it nailed down, this like b-boy fusion dance routine.
Yeah, what was the dance style?
I mean, it was
B-boy fusion.
B-boy fusion. Yeah.
How do you feel that this early dance upbringing affected the great rap/dance battles of say of Kenai of Cain?
Well, it's true that once those battles really got going, the east and the west side of Kenai, they were not happy with one another. A lot of unfortunate stabbings.
Unfortunate stabbings.
But that
I suppose that the stabbings you're kind of glad about.
We still continue the unfortunate stabbing tradition today, don't we, at dance competitions? I mean, we do it in honor of Hannibal.
Mm-hmm. They say don't go to a dance competition unless you sharpened your knife.
That's why whenever there's a dance competition and someone gets stabbed, you hear Hannibal's war cry, which is, I think, world star hip-hop.
So, he practices and practices because he's trying to take his crew to nationals. Just across the Mediterranean, the big shots at the Rome High School.
Wait, the robot school?
The Roman High School.
The Roman High School.
Whose mascot is the gnomes.
the Roman gnomes?
The Rome gnomes.
Rome gnome.
This is going to be the first year Carthage is ever going to overtake them in the big dance competition. But when they get there, obviously the competition is in Rome because why wouldn't it be? They have all the money. So it's the Rome gnome home.
They really were like the Yankees of the ancient dance world.
Oh yeah.
Just constantly the villains. So much money.
Well, Hannibal's crew was scheduled to go on right after the Roman crew, and there was a terrible surprise.
The gall of those Romans. Am I right? Am I right?
Yeah.
Come
The
on.
Romans
What are we doing with those puns?
start their routine, and it is beat for beat, note for note, Hannibal's routine. There was a spy in Carthage who sold out their dance routine to the Roman dance crew. And Hannibal had to improvise. What could he do? He couldn't do the same routine. The judges would tear him apart. And he fails. And they lose at nationals. And from that day forward, Hannibal could never forgive Rome.
You know what? I know what you're doing here, but is Bring It On based on Hannibal?
I mean, there is that story by credit.
It does really sync up. Like, it syncs up a lot.
Credit.
That makes a lot of sense.
Oh, yeah. It makes a lot of sense.
Did Kirsten Dunst
But I
kill
would like
herself at the end of Bring It On?
Just so I know,
Spoiler
in this version, Hannibal is actually the Clovers and not the Toros. So,
Oh, excuse me.
yeah. So finally,
Continue.
Hannibal, despite never studying military tactics, finally picks up his father's mantle.
So that whole dance thing was... So now we're getting to just what happened.
This is all the prequel.
Yes.
He thinks
He might as well have just done pod racing.
the best revenge is burning the city to the ground. So he gets an army together based on his father's name, a bunch of elephants, and he has this brilliant plan, sneak attack, cross the Alps. Everyone says you're crazy, Hannibal. You can't possibly cross the Alps with this many men and this many elephants and expect to survive. And Hannibal does what he knows he has to do and makes a deal with the Dark Wanderer to give himself power over the dead.
So, wait, is he Ghost Rider now?
The Dark Wanderer, of course, is a malevolent force that exists through all time periods. Some cultures, according to Caligula's autobiography, which was called, I believe, Music, Orgies, and a Time Machine, the story of Caligula.
Not a great title.
Wait, there was a ghost written one called Caligula You, Caligula Me, Caligula Us. Isn't that?
I think that was written by a different party, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the two different Steve Jobs books that came out.
In the first edition of Caligula's autobiography, which of course was released in 1976, there's a lot of references to the Dark Wanderer, who's sometimes called Satan or Loki or Chuck Lorre or whatever. But
Take that, Chuck Lorre, I guess.
when he went through time and re-released it in 1932, all of those references were removed. So, pretty weird stuff. But
Yeah, that's a word for it.
now Hannibal has the ability to bring people back from the dead and temporarily turn men into elephants. Elephants into men. Elephants into men.
Wait, so not vice versa?
Not vice versa. One of them managed to survive for about 1700 years. 1800 years. His name was John Merrick. So he gave us a lot of this information, if
So-
I'm being honest.
What the fuck did the 38 elephants do to Hannibal that he wouldn't turn them into men?
Yeah.
Well, he turned them into men to ease the crossing of the Alps. Just elephants are large and
But
men
what
are...
about the 38?
The 38 that he didn't turn, the 38 he took into the Alps. What the fuck?
Oh, he
did
turned
they
them
do?
back into elephants when they got
Wait, so he does have the power.
He doesn't know how to turn them.
Oh, yeah, you can go back and forth. As long as they were originally elephants. The unfortunate side effect of his pact is that some of the undead got away and started a huge ghoul problem throughout Europe that persisted for a while
And they persist to this day.
and may persist to this day.
Based
That
on our
remains
Julius
to be
Caesar
seen.
episode.
But yeah, you get a few ghouls in there, and pretty soon there's like hundreds.
I mean, you see one ghoul and you probably have 1,000.
Well, he gets to Rome, and he realizes, I don't have a plan here. He's looking at this army, and he's like, all I know is choreography. And suddenly he realizes, choreographing an army is not so different from choreographing a b-boy
I don't
squad.
think it's called choreographing an army. I think it's just called war, maybe.
So he uses the lessons he learns, creating his beautiful dance routine, to create the most beautiful war tactics anybody had ever seen.
Now, I want to check in because we touched on his early life earlier. Please tell me that the basic chores he did around the house for his father prepared him in some way that he was not expecting to lead an army, like mopping or maybe washing the windows of his villa, of his father's villa, somehow prepared him.
I assume those get worked into dance moves.
Yeah. And then hence into battle, like, he was telling people, obviously you and the internet can't see this, but he's like, all of you, and he's realized he was actually doing the washing motion the entire time.
Gesticulating as though you were washing a window.
You need to go over there, and he realized he was just like washing the car.
Yeah.
And that's how he led his army, learning these basic tricks.
Yeah.
Washing
and
the cart.
Chores like when his dad would say, go have this elephant gore my enemy, like it turned out that was super useful when he got to the battlefield.
This is never going to be a skill I'm going to apply in real life. And then
elephant goring.
It's like algebra.
It's like cursive. Nobody uses elephant goring anymore. So he wins. He defeats the Roman army using his beautiful war tactics. Again, he can't take down Rome. He hobos around for a few years. He sets up a theater for dance just outside Rome that's pretty popular. Later, Cleopatra would play there. Big deal. And eventually he does go home. And he becomes a politician for a while. The rest of his life until his death is uneventful. But when he dies, well, he's reminded at the time of his death that he made that deal with the Dark Wanderer. Yep. And now his soul belongs to the Dark Wanderer. So there's a trial, of course.
Are you doing fucking Devil Daniel Webster, motherfucker? Yes.
Turns out he loses the first trial, but there's an appeals system for souls. The appeals is still going on.
Yeah, I mean, they do that.
For eternal souls, like 2,000 years is kind of a long appeal, but not too bad. So we don't really know what the deal with that is. He's still in appellate court. That's where Hannibal is today, fighting for his soul.
In the appellate court system of hell.
Yeah, so that's the real story of Hannibal, man. I don't know what to tell you. That's what happened.
I don't know what to tell you.
I call utter horseshit on that entire... Because you didn't even keep with the same movie trope.
Oh, it's a tale as old as time.
I mean, I don't know
the old
as old as rock.
Dance competition, deal with the devil, fiddle, Ghost Rider.
I'm sorry, did you see Bring It On 2? Because there is definitely a deal with the devil.
You know what? I can't actually argue that. I did not see Bring It On 2. I saw Bring It On 3 and I couldn't follow it because I never saw Bring It On 2.
Well, they're in the
because it's all about the legal system in hell.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was either...
That one's pretty inside baseball.
It was either Bring It On 3 or Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. And I'm not sure which movie I was watching.
One of the two, because one of those is definitely in color and it's hard to tell apart.
Well, I'm colorblind. I can't.
I'm colorblind too.
I can't see race, so...
I'm actually regular.
I don't know if the man who appeared to be an older white male. I also don't see gender or age or class. I don't know if I was looking at an older white male or a young Latino dance squad because I don't prejudice myself against anything. So I don't know.
Could have been Werner Herzog on that dance field.
Dance field.
That's what they're called, right?
Dance field. When was the last time you danced?
1997?
Okay.
It was junior high school prom.
Was it? Because
I danced alone in the corner.
I don't think those dates match up, and I don't know that that's a thing that exists.
I didn't have to be in junior high school to go to junior high school prom.
It's just prom. You know that.
As said in the witness stand by Zach Powers.
Officer, I don't know what happened to that girl. I was at junior high school prom.
Oh, Jesus. Well, two stirring tales of Hannibal, and I am honestly torn. So what I'm going to do, and this is the first time we're going to be opening up the story to an audience vote, but if you have a pick as to which story you like better, please send that vote to me. You can do that on revisionistpodcast.com. There you can also send us a comment, ask us a question, suggest a topic, and then in about a week I'll announce the winner.
Yeah.
and then we'll move on from there.
Well, I hope we have the listenership to get a single vote.
Well, we should have a single vote. This will become a dictatorship, I feel like. And we salute our benevolent overlords. While we're talking about business, you can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. Mike, this will be out this Saturday, but you'll be in the... you made the finals of the New Faces contest at Denver's Comedy Works.
Yep.
Congratulations on that. Which you should check out because there's a lot more rounds coming up, and the finals will be great.
Yeah, I'll be opening up the show for some of the remaining contestants on the 28th at Comedy Works. So,
and just to tease it, the whole month of October, we'll be doing special Halloween-themed episodes. So we'll be leaving ancient history behind for a couple of episodes. We hope you're looking forward to that because it's going to be really, really fun.
Mm-hmm. If you thought the puns were bad before we had Crypt Keeper as a reference...
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Mike, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Zach, thank you as always.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for everyone here at The Revisionists, I'm Brian Flynn.
I'm Zach Powers.
Mike Hammock.
Thanks for listening, and join us next time.